Sponsorships are the lifeblood of racing. Companies give race teams much needed money in order to advertise their brand to millions of race fans across the country. But sometimes, those companies will be Hollywood's largest movie studios. Over the last 30 years, both huge blockbusters and low-budget flicks alike have adorned the side of your favorite driver's race car. Today, we're going to take a look at the bizarre world of movie paint schemes in NASCAR. We can't really tell this story without giving a mention to Days of Thunder. Obviously the most famous NASCAR movie of all time, it was the first true high-budget motion picture that depicted the world of stock car racing. To capture the footage for the film, director Tony Scott and the producers sent out fully equipped race cars at the end of the 1989 season and beginning of 1990, even during the 1990 Daytona 500. While these cars are cool, I'm really talking about cars being sponsored by big productions. The popularity of Days of Thunder precipitated the rise of NASCAR in popular media, and with the sport growing by the mid-90s, Hollywood felt that they could get enormous bang for their buck advertising their film on a race car rather than producing a full-length film about NASCAR. What would make a deal like this even easier would be to have an existing deal with a driver's regular sponsor. This type of partnership led to the rise of what is commonly assumed to be the first ever movie paint scheme in NASCAR for 1995's Batman Forever. Due to Warner Brothers and DC Comics having a deal with McDonald's to place toys in Happy Meals, it only made sense to do a mutually beneficial partnership deal with McDonald's driver Bill Elliott. NASCAR's most popular driver exchanged his McDonald's red, yellow, and white for Batmobile colors for the 1995 Coca-Cola 600 and the first races at Pocono in Michigan ahead of the film's release. I'd say that 1995 in general was about the time when the concept of alternate paint schemes started creeping up, and Bill Elliott's Thunderbat scheme, a play on words for his Ford Thunderbird, was at the forefront of that. What's often forgotten is that this was not the only movie scheme of 1995. At the season finale in Atlanta, Morgan Shepherd and the Wood brothers traded in their red trim on their car for gold to mark the return of one of cinema's greatest heroes. GoldenEye was the first James Bond film since 1989, and being that it was the first Bond film after the Cold War ended and the first to star Pierce Brosnan, it's clear that Eon Productions was eager to spare no expense on advertising. I'm not quite sure if the producers had any deal with the Wood brothers' regular sponsor Citgo, but regardless, this is one of the most forgotten one-off schemes in history. GoldenEye did really well at the box office, and the resulting video game is widely regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time. By the time we entered the 2000s and NASCAR's peak of popularity, movie schemes grew in abundance. I can rattle off tons of movies that served as a sponsor in the 2000s. The Grinch, Finding Nemo, the SpongeBob movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, even Passion of the Christ sponsored Bobby Labonte in the 2004 Daytona 500. It was a wild time, man, seeing these random movies show up on cars frequently. This trend really just highlights how popular NASCAR was at the time. However, going into 2005, no movie car had ever won a race. As you can probably tell by now, most of the movie schemes are for new entries in the big franchises. Batman and James Bond aren't the only ones. There's Terminator, Pixar films like Toy Story, The Incredibles, and obviously all three Cars movies, Shrek, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, even the Minions. Yes, seriously. But there's one franchise bigger than them all, and it was the first to go to victory lane. It's the 2005 Aaron's 499 at Talladega, and Jeff Gordon has a rocket ship. Leading 139 of 194 laps, Gordon took Yoda along for the win. It wasn't the first time that one of Star Wars prequels had sponsored Jeff, as Episode 1 appeared on his Busch Series car back in 1999. His Cup car that day in 2005 was one of 4 different paint schemes that Lucasfilm sponsored to promote Revenge of the Sith, with Elliott Sadler and Dale Jarrett running it at Phoenix and Kyle Busch running it at Richmond. In any case, Gordon's win at Talladega bucked the trend of movie cars winning Cup races, and the floodgates opened. The next year, Kasey Kahne won a rain-shortened race in Michigan with a promotion from Click, starring Adam Sandler. In 2008, Kyle Busch took Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to victory lane at Darlington. But by the end of the 2000s, the movie cars started to slowly disappear. After the 2008 financial crisis, NASCAR teams were hit hard by sponsorship woes, causing many teams to shut down. With the sport now headed on a decline in popularity, and with the rise of social media outlets, advertisers figured out that they could get better return on investment through social media campaigns for a fraction of the cost of sponsoring a race car. Hell, all they have to do now is drop a trailer on YouTube and more people will watch it than will watch the Cup race the following weekend. It only makes sense that this trend would go away. However, one holdout from this bygone era is DC Comics, the company that pioneered the first movie paint scheme all the way back in 1995. During the summer of 2004, DC brought out an entire fleet of cars advertising not their movies, but rather their comic book characters. If we really want to get technical, Greg Biffle did win at Michigan that year in a flash paint scheme, but because it wasn't promoting a movie, I won't count it as the first. In 2012, they famously were on board for the end of Dale Jr.'s enormous winless drought when he won at Michigan in a Dark Knight Rises paint scheme. The next year at Michigan, Dale Jr. again ran with a DC Comics scheme, this time promoting the Superman film Man of Steel. Man, what is it with Michigan and DC? I guess because it's a race right in the middle of summer, it makes it ripe for promotions like this. Anyway, almost every recent DC movie has been on a car. Batman vs Superman saw Dale Jr. and Jimmy Johnson run dual schemes at Fontana, with Johnson winning the race. Dale Jr. again. Boy, does DC Comics really love Dale Jr. I mean, who doesn't really? Again, he ran a Justice League scheme in 2017. Danica Patrick obviously ran the Wonder Woman scheme that year too, and Eric Almirola donned Shazam colors in 2019. That's not to say film sponsorships have disappeared completely. I'd be totally remiss if I didn't mention Tommy Dreese in this video. Dreese is an advertising executive in the film industry and a part-time driver, normally running in various sports car and endurance racing categories. But he also became something of a road course ringer in the 2010s, starting 5 races in Cup and 11 in Xfinity, all on road courses. Due to his connections, most of his starts have come with some film as the sponsor. The Wolverine, Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Counselor, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and even Straight Outta Compton appeared on his cars. A wild group of movies to be sure, and they appeared solely due to Dreese's connections, but it's fun nonetheless. In conclusion, the disappearance of film paint schemes from NASCAR can be attributed to a variety of factors. One of the main reasons is the shift in the industry's marketing strategies. Companies have moved towards more modern and digital-friendly designs that can be easily recognized and shared across platforms. This is more important in today's digital age where social media plays a significant role in promoting brands and events. On top of this, NASCAR just isn't as popular in the cultural subconscious anymore. We see that teams are struggling to put full season sponsorship packages together. Most cars run a different paint scheme every week because they have to, taking deals with multiple companies in an attempt to cover their costs for the season. Sure, we may still have a one-off here and there, but the era of movies sponsoring race cars, at least in NASCAR, is long past its heyday. There's been plenty of movie schemes that I left out and didn't mention, so let me know in the comments below the ones that I skipped over and which ones were your favorite.